Welcome back to U-Versus. Today we are covering The Backrooms, made in 2022. It's a indie series analog horror thing that was created on YouTube. He created this animation when he was only 16 years old, based on the creepypasta with the same name. Can you survive this liminal space? Let's find out and get into the series. Before this video starts, can you please just consider subscribing? Or at least commenting something funny or liking. Or maybe even doing that new thing called hyping it. Since I want to make more videos and I need your help. Okay, bye. The series begins with a cheap indie movie being made on a camera, where the cameraman is asked to take some steps back, and one hop this time. He does, and falls into the floor, into what we know as the backrooms, the yellow liminal space with mouldy carpet and weird wallpaper. The guy explores the almost infinite rooms and finds a hole with a ladder, which is for some reason a key part of the backrooms that everyone puts in their thumbnails. He finds drawings that someone or something has made when he hears a scream and sees the iconic howler running after him. He runs away and finds a hole which he jumps into because he is cornered, which brings him into some new rooms, which I believe should be a new level. He goes through some white rooms after a while until he finds his way back to level 1. Sorry, I don't know much about it, and when I researched I found out there was way too many variations of it, so. The guy gets backed up into a corner by the monster and sees another hole, which is a bit longer this time, before being jump scared by the monster and chucked down it. Good news, it sends him back to Earth. Bad news, it's thousands of feet up in the air and he has no parachute, so he hits the ground without a soft landing. This guy could have survived this by not just backing himself into a corner from the monster, especially since he had infinite space to run. In the next episode, we see a bunch of scientists researching the backrooms through photos. We see that the scientists have made a gateway to the backrooms through some science malarkey, but it didn't seem like it worked. We see another test with the song Daisy Bell being barely heard in the background when this is happening. The test actually works this time, and we see the entrance to the backrooms, and the scientists realise the mistake. Have you not learned from Stranger Things? No. We see a bunch of missing posters because of the people disappearing into the backrooms, like our first character we met. A group of people in hazmat suits explore the backrooms, reminding me of Lethal Company for some reason. And they find a dead body of someone against the wall. The dead body has an autopsy, where he seems to have died by being infected by some sort of disease that is found in the backrooms. He could have survived this by covering his mouth as soon as he went into the backrooms, especially since he saw all the mould along the wall. Or if he died of hunger and the infection took over him after his death, he could have found loot drops depending on what variation of backrooms were going off, which sometimes are spawned in during the backrooms game. Async, the business studying the backrooms, gives rules to prevent widespread panic and death that can be contained. We see more researchers who were sent to explore the place, where the person with the camera gets transported somewhere different to the others. The person finds a jungle-themed part of the maze, which also might be a new level, which leads to a house. He finds an exit sign, which leads to somewhere, but judging by the alarms, it probably didn't go well. But he's not getting advice, since we don't know he don't die, and we literally see him later, because cameraman never die. Async has set up cameras to map out the backrooms and locate people or monsters. We see some videos of motion and noises being detected, such as employees walking past cameras, gates shutting, monsters screaming or being seen. We even have the YouTube circle showing where it is in the actual series. Get shown off a prototype of the gates that eventually open up the backrooms, which we know will work in the future. Employee does a vlog of the daily life of an employee. So, the day starts off with me putting on my Monsters Inc. uniform and then talking on the radio. Person carries on with useless filming whilst his friends are doing some sort of actual work. They find a bunch of holes in the floor, which leads to a doorway. One person makes it, and somehow the cameraman falls. He is in a different room, but being lost from the others is almost as being good as dead. He finds himself upon a road with a bunch of houses on it, covered in red lighting. He follows a person screaming and finds people's items like bags and shoes. Obviously the thing screaming is a monster pretending to be human, so he gets chased. He makes it to the hole and climbs a rope his friends took down, but his coughing indicates that he may be infected. Or he could just be exhausted from the running, which is fair. We see actual living people instead of the usual animation of hazmat suits and liminal spaces, which actually surprised me for a second. People evaluate the new discovery that the person in the last tape discovered, and it's blocked off by builders, so people can't go in it. Shown footage that even people within cars can be transported, with a whole car just disappearing. We see a presentation showing that async plans on making the backrooms a livable place to counteract overpopulation, despite the whole monsters and unbreathable air part. There's a bunch of in real life footage, such as models and experimenting, before we are shown Alarm Hazmat Guy again. In the recording, it's revealed that Alarm Hazmat Guy is named Peter, and he's questioned and hopefully fine for now. We get another footage where a woman is testing a square she found on the floor, which transports stuff to some mystery place. I wonder where. She then puts a measuring tape down to see how far it goes, before falling down into the backrooms herself. She sees things like kitchen equipment, a table for people with long legs.
Hail Satan.
No, not you. And another hole in the floor. We are shown the car that spawned where it has crashed into a wall, which makes me wonder what happens if a plane spawns down there.
Days are a drag here too.
Oh. She walks into another house-like part with night vision, hoping that Chris Walker doesn't find her. But she does find the howler. She jumps down the hole where she finds a tiled sort of backrooms place, where then she is covered in green light and she loses signal. I actually think she might be fine, since she could have either got into a new level or escaped the backrooms entirely. If I've said something wrong with the backrooms lore, just tell me in the comments, because I don't care if I get something wrong and I'd rather learn than say something false anyway. We see that Async has begun production, trying to make the backrooms livable, with trucks driving through and models being actually made in real life. We see a robot being drove around the backrooms with a camera to avoid human fatalities. Aww, it kinda looks like Wall-E a bit. We see real life footage that isn't just yellow wallpaper, where we are shown a picture that was also seen in the backrooms, connecting both the worlds. We see another research team who walks through white walls, talking to each other through radio. A person is tackled by a survivor who is revealed to be Peter, the alarm guy, who is angry at the company for covering up his disappearance. Peter then shoots one of the people because they start calling for reinforcements. He could have survived this by just going along with Peter, since he didn't want to shoot him in the first place anyway. Peter ambushes the Async office with the said gun and escapes the grasp of employees. Async provides an explanation and an apology about the events of Peter and what happened. They reveal that after the alarm, they questioned Peter and provided him with evidence of what happened, revealing that he somehow travelled 2 months ahead of time, which is why he disappeared. Peter only felt like he had been there for a few hours, so when he came back and saw differences, he became confused until he was told what happened. Peter was told about his death cover-up and was fine at first, until he lost his mind by being kept away from others, believing that he was trapped. He revealed that Peter escaped outside to be free, but fell over and hit his head on a rock, causing him to die. Which feels like a weird death for a sort of main character. Peter could have survived this by being careful how he ran, especially when there was hard things to fall on when he fell. The tape then ends with a phone call that sounds familiar. Oh, that's where I remember it from. We see a group of people using a decontamination chamber before entering the backrooms. We see an experiment on the roof tiles and what they are made of.
Or swag.
Whoa, that's not a nice thing to call it. They also take many minutes talking about the lights and how interesting they are. Nah, I'm joking. But I honestly love the world creation that Kane Pixel makes. Get the third and final found footage of a person who is transported into the backrooms, showing random clips.
And sure, I like making fun of diseased kids as much as the next guy, but...
Okay, I already like the other two people more. Goes downstairs to a broken window and goes all the way into the basement before being knocked back into the back rooms. Does the usual thing of looking around the rooms like the past two people have done. He calls for a tunnel and makes it into a non-yellow part of the back rooms where we see sunlight through a window. He makes it into a room where he pushes a cabinet that uncovers a secret room. He finds some messy room until he hears noises, which makes him run away, shutting a door behind him. He then hears something knocking on the door, and the door handle trying to get open, which actually gave me chills for some reason. The creature follows him into some sort of model house, with a loud thumping telling him where it is. He finds a radio and tries talking through to people, with no response. Chased by a monster again, that looks like a human running on all fours, and I hate it. Looks at a city skyline, which we seen a bit earlier, and it's surprisingly pretty for such a terrifying series. Finds a house with a sky background that he goes inside, which actually looks normal for once. He hears a person where he introduces himself as Ravi, which I'll call him instead of him or just a guy. Ravi talks to the guy who is actually in the real world, both confused about what's happening, and they plan to open up a wall to see each other. Something unfortunate happens to the man when he does though, with monster roaring, him screaming and flashing lights happening all at once. But his death is also not confirmed, so there's still no advice. Ravi talks about the real world and the fact that he misses it, whilst his camera battery starts to run out, apologising for all his mistakes, and it makes me start to like her a bit more. Battery runs out before we know what happens to him, unfortunately. Okay, I know this episode has probably felt like such a weird journey, but this is the last short episode, okay? And then we're done. It starts with two friends arguing about how stressful the company is, especially with the events of Peter, but they come to an agreement. See how much work has happened on the holes from the last time we seen them. George, one of the friends, are recording. And the whole series ends by showing one final room. And so far, that's how the series ends, with the series not being touched for a year or so. And it can very easily carry on, so maybe expect a part 2. That is over, I'll rank the survivability of the series and how much I liked it in a tier list. I believe that the average person can't survive the backrooms, due to the bacteria in the air, the monsters, and the lack of food. I think that the backrooms deserves an S tier, since it's a perfect YouTube horror, which most likely influenced analog horror in its entirety, And it's so good, it's getting its own movie, which you should watch. I honestly enjoyed The Backrooms, and I weren't expecting to. But it had such scary and sometimes emotional moments, which you wouldn't expect. I'm so excited to watch the actual movie in its entirety now that I've watched this. You can still find the blue pumpkin somewhere in this video, but it's probably going to be obvious if it's hidden against a yellow wall. This has been You Versus, and I'll see you next time. No!
Are you all alone? What's up? What's up? What the? Who's that?
Yo, pick up the phone.
What's up? What's up?
Yo, Duque, pick up the phone.
Yo.
What's up?
What you doing, son?